Contact legal assistant Tanya Blanton at 912-375-5620. 375-5620 to set up your free consultation. Let the bankruptcy group do the worrying for you. Now serving Jessup.
It's time now for the world famous Butch and Bob Show. On the phone, as promised, we've got First District Congressman Buddy Carter. Buddy, how you doing today?
I'm wonderful. I hope y'all are.
Doing well. Trying to stay safe. We'll start there. Well, no, I want to start with you want to call in and talk about the president's trip. He was in Atlanta last week on Wednesday, I do believe. We had a busy week last week. We had the governor in town Monday, had Kelly Loeffler in Tuesday, and you were in Atlanta Wednesday with the president. So tell us about the trip and what's the purpose of the trip.
Well, first of all, it was a bucket list item for me because I got to ride on Air Force One. First time I've ever done that. It was really an experience, as you can imagine.
Well, tell me about that, because I asked Kelly Loeffler about it. I want to know how nice it is. Is there really champagne on it?
It is nice. It's a Boeing 747 that's been customized for that purpose. I mean, it's got it's 4,000 square feet. It's 3 levels. It's got complete bedroom and everything for the president and first lady to rest if they need to. It can be refueled mid-air, so it can travel anywhere as far as it needs to go. It's got all the computer equipment and it's protected so that it could act as they could actually operate the country from the Air Force One if they needed to in case of an attack. So. It's pretty impressive, I'll tell you that. But it is. How
many seats are there? How many can get on there? I mean, how many can sit in there?
I'm not sure how many can sit in there. I do know 2 interesting facts, though. First of all, that they can prepare enough food out of the galleys for 100 people, and that they can. It actually has a medical unit in it that can turn into an operating room, and there's always a doctor on board Air Force One when the president's on there, so. They could actually operate on the president if they needed to on Air Force One.
So that's pretty nice that you got to do that. So he wasn't.
Yeah, it was. And I'm sorry.
I said he was in Atlanta, though. Tell us about the purpose of his trip.
Yeah, it was a great purpose because we have the National Environmental Policy Act, and what that does, of course, that's a 40-year-old law that has not been revamped, has not been tweaked or changed any at all, and obviously needs to be. The average project right now takes 7 years to be permitted before you can start it. The changes that the president has made administratively to the NPEA, the NEPA, the National Environmental Protection Act, will call for it to only be 2 years, and you can get the permitting done in 2 years. Now, I think it's erroneous for people to think that the longer you take for an environmental review, the better off you are. That's not necessarily true. You can do just as good a job in 2 years in reviewing the environmental impact that a project's going to have as you can do in 7 years. The president pointed out that oftentimes you'll start a project, and 7 years down the line you say, well, wait a minute, things have changed, and we're not going to do this project. We're going to give up. Yeah, we're through with the permitting process, but we haven't even started on the construction yet. There's probably no better example than the Savannah Harbor expansion project, where we went from 42 feet to 47 feet deep on the Savannah Harbor. That is the most studied project in the history of mankind. We started permitting in 1995 and did not start construction until 2015, and won't finish until 2021. Here, China has already started and completed 3 port projects in the time it's taken us to do just this deepening of the Savannah Harbor. So that shows you right there just why this act needs to be tweaked and it needs to be updated, and that's what the president's doing. And he chose Atlanta because I-75, of course, between McDonough and Macon is very congested, and particularly at the UPS hub in Hapeville, and that's where we had the event at. That's where the president announced the changes to NEPA, and they're gonna expand that interstate between McDonough and Macon, which will relieve a lot of congestion there, and that will have an impact on us in South Georgia, because that means that the ports will be able to move freight to and from the port more rapidly, and that'll help us as well.
And just joining us, Buddy Carter on the phone with us. First is your Congressman. You got an election coming up in November. The Democratic runoff's underway. Got any idea who's going to win that runoff between Lisa Ring and Joyce Griggs?
I don't. I noticed that they had a debate. I believe it was Saturday or maybe Sunday, and one of the candidates didn't show up. I think Joyce Griggs was the only one who showed up, and the other candidate, Lisa Ring, didn't show up. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But Joyce Griggs is certainly putting forth quite an effort.
Again, that race is in November. The winner of that runoff squares off against you. Let's talk about the coronavirus. A lot's been said about that, a lot about masks. The president's done a 180 on the mask, now telling everybody they need to wear a mask. So governor hasn't done a mandate. He's upset with the mayor in Atlanta. She's mandated they have to wear masks. Same thing in Savannah. I saw Governor Cuomo down in Savannah hugging the mayor like they have a love fest. Your thoughts on all this? I've argued all the time, and I'll still argue from day one. Everything you hear is a different story every day. There's been no consistency, no plan. People are frustrated. They don't know what to believe. So where do you stand on all this?
Well, it certainly is confusing. I mean, make no mistake about it, masks kill. There's no question about it. We should be following the guidelines of the coronavirus task force, and that is to wear masks, to make sure we're washing our hands, to practice social distancing where we can, to be wiping off counter surfaces and that type of thing. That's very important. We should follow that. Should it be mandated? I don't think so. I don't believe in the nanny state. You can't make people do something. And we should do it. There's no question about it. We should have personal responsibility to do that type of thing. And if you're not going to do it for yourself, then do it out of consideration for other people. But I do agree with the governor. I don't think it's necessary to mandate it. What in the world the governor of New York is doing in Savannah, Georgia is beyond me. I mean, I was born and raised in that area, and here we have a mayor of Savannah who's a fine fella. I like Van Fine. He's from Brooklyn, and he invites the mayor of New York down to Savannah. Well, that's fine. We welcome anybody. I think he picks a good place to vacation. Savannah's a wonderful place to and the whole coast of Georgia is a wonderful place to vacation. I hope everybody comes down here on vacations. We need the tourists, and we welcome them. But we don't need the governor of New York coming down telling us what we need to be doing down here in Savannah. I will tell you that. But nevertheless, we need to. It's disappointing that the focus has been on whether it should be mandated to wear a mask or whether it should be just personal responsibility. That's not the point. The point is, we need to be wearing masks, and let's everybody wear your mask and make sure that we're following those guidelines. That's the most important thing.
Buddy, when you look at what number do you look at? Like I said, we get these numbers every day from the Georgia Department of Public Health. They update it 3 times a day, but they're cumulative numbers. They go all the way back to March. Had a report yesterday, they had Wayne County at 336, but 171 came from the federal prison here in Jessup. So over half the cases from March up to now have come from the federal prison. So why can't you get an active count? How many cases are active today? How many people have had it and now are cured of it? Where are those numbers? Do you get those numbers district-wide, statewide? I mean, that's the frustration. Everything's cumulative, and it sounds like the numbers are going up, but the question is how many active cases are there currently now?
Well, that's a good question, Bob, and I question those numbers. We've had some people that we know who have tested positive, and then they go back and test again, and they test positive again. Now, they're counting that as another positive test?
That's what they want. That's what they won't tell you, right? That's what I'm saying.
That's what's so confusing. The numbers are confusing, and I don't think we're getting a true representation of what's going on out there. It's very misleading, and the key to me is obviously the morbidity. That is very important. And you see that the mean age that people are really being impacted, and that it's that it's killing is in the mid-60s. That to me is the most important number. Obviously, we need to focus on taking care of that population. We need to focus on making sure that we're protecting the elderly and those who have an compromised immune system. They're very vulnerable as well, and we need to concentrate on making sure that we're taking care of those. I will tell you this: I don't think we're ever going to be able to roll out our economy until we get our schools and our daycares back. I don't think there's any question about that. And that's got to be a focus, is how we're going to get our schools back, how we're going to get our daycares back. Because we're not going to be able to get our workforce back until those two things are taken care of.
Well, I saw yesterday where the president's going to go back to having the briefings on the coronavirus. Again, that was something they did early. There was like every day they'd have a briefing. They did away with those for a while. So do you think those are going to be helpful? And also, that's the criticism that a lot of people are saying. There should be a national plan. It should come from the top. When it first began, I remember Mike Pence, the vice president, had that sheet, 11 ways to stop the spread, and they gave you all these guidelines. So what's your thoughts on that? Should it come from the federal government? Should it come from state government, local government? Who should be in control of what's taking place with this coronavirus? Should there be a national plan or not?
Well, and certainly there should be guidelines that come from the federal government. I don't think there's any question about that. But I don't think there's any better example than the state of Georgia. You know, we've always said that there's two Georgias, there's Atlanta, and there's everywhere else. And what's good for Fulton County, what's good for DeKalb County may not necessarily be what's best for Wayne County or Brantley County or some of the other counties in South Georgia. And that's the problem with the national plan. Is it is it what's good, what's necessary in New York? Is it going to be necessary in South Dakota? Will the same things apply? I've always believed that the best government is the government closest to the people. So I think those decisions are best made by the local authorities or the state authorities, particularly the state authorities. But certainly there needs to be guidelines from the federal government. And I think the federal government, as you pointed out, Vice President Pence had some guidelines there, and I think that we have had guidelines. But it's, again, how can you... I'm not sure you could have one blanket policy for the whole United States of America. It's such a diverse and unique area.
Well, I'm curious, you're up in Washington, so you probably hear more than we do. The president, in his interview with Mike Wallace, said that he and Dr. Fauci still have a good relationship, although some people question that. They said he's been thrown on their bus lately. Where do you stand on Dr. Fauci?
Well, here's the thing, Bob, and hang with me here. There's no question about it. I'm a healthcare professional pharmacist, so I've always said if you got your health, you got everything. And health is paramount. It is the main focus that we in Congress and that the administration that we look at, and it should be. The health of our country has to be the main focus. It is paramount above everything else. However, we in Congress and we in the administration don't have the luxury of just focusing on one thing. Dr. Fauci is focused only on health care. We in Congress, we got to think about the health of our economy. We got to think about the mental state of our citizens being cooped up for so long. And you have to take some other things into consideration. Keeping in mind always that health is paramount. We get it. We understand that. But at the same time, there are other things that we have to look at. And, I think Dr. Fauci is laser focused on just health, I don't question his knowledge, and I told him this in the hearing. I told him all that. He and Dr. Redfield and Gerard and all of them that were before us in the committee meeting. I said, look, I don't pretend to know more about communicable diseases than you do, but I do know nursing homes because I worked in nursing homes for over 30 years, and I thought it was the worst decision ever made when the governor of New York put positive cases in nursing homes, positive COVID-19 cases in nursing homes. That was the most boneheaded decision I've ever heard. But at the same time, to your question, and the point is, Dr. Fauci is laser focused just on the health. And there are other things that we have to consider, with always keeping in mind that health care is number one.
Let me ask you about one more question about the coronavirus. Everybody says it came from China. Kelly Loeffler was in town last week, talked to her. She said that China should be held responsible. There should be some punishment. What are you hearing in Washington? What's going to be the repercussions? Is there going to be any repercussions with China spreading this virus across?
Yes, there is going to be.
What do you think is going to happen?
There is going to be, and it's already started. You know that the president has pulled out of the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization, who was complicit in working with China and covering up for China and we've pulled out of that, and I don't, there are people who, even in our own party, who said that wasn't the right decision. I applaud the president, because I think at the very least we need to get the World Health Organization's attention and let them know we're not going to put up with this. They can't be covering up for China. I do feel like that this was a Chinese virus, and that China was covering up and not forthcoming with the information. If they had been, that we could have responded better. The president cut off all travel to China early on, and he understood. I thought that was a great decision on his part, and I'm glad that he made it as quickly as he made it. But at the same time, are there going to be repercussions against China? Yes, that has already started, and I can tell you there are people in Congress and leadership in Congress who are highly upset. And even more upset right now, I've got a hearing, I think it starts at 11 o'clock this morning, either 10 or 11, but in the Oversight and Investigations Committee with the different pharmacy companies that are working on the vaccination right now. And one of the problems that we're having is China trying to hack into those companies and steal the information and steal our intellectual property there. I'm telling you, China is a target right now. They're on the list. Don't worry.
Some stories hit the national news and then they kind of disappear. There's a story about a man. He was in Russia. They claimed he was a spy. They're holding him. The family's trying to get him. Where do we stand on that? I haven't heard any more about that. Is he still over there? Or what's the chance of him coming back to the United States?
I'm sorry, Bob. I'm not familiar with that one.
I'm sorry.
I'll have to check into that.
I saw it on national news like 2 weeks ago and hadn't heard anything left. The family was pleading for the president to get him out, and the president said he was going to try to get him out, but I hadn't heard anything. How about the local story down in St. Simon's, the removal of the golden array? Are you following that closely? Saw where several crew members got the coronavirus. They got delayed. Now they said they can't get out there before the hurricane season hits. What's the concern with the Golden Isles residents down there? About, is that going to be a safe removal? Is there going to be some problems with the environment and the water? What are you hearing down there?
Well, we met with them 2 weeks ago. I met with the command force and to get an update on what's going on. And you are correct. They did have an outbreak on one of their crews, and that has set them back some. They are now looking at July 29th as a start date when they start cutting. They've got everything in place. They've got all the equipment there. They're going to put their different work groups in a bubble, keep them to themselves so that they don't interact with anyone, so they don't have any more outbreaks. When they start cutting, there are going to be 8 different cuts that they're going to make. So that chip is going to be cut into 8 different sections. It's going to take 8 weeks for that to be completed. Their main concern is the last 2 cuts that they make. On the outside, the structure itself is pretty secure and pretty stable. But as they get closer to, they're going to start cutting from the outside, and as they get closer to the inside, they're very concerned that the structure and the stability of the structure. So those last couple of cuts are what they're very concerned about. They do feel like, and let me tell you, you talk about planning, I have been super impressed with all the planning and the preparation that they have made. They have truly done an outstanding job of preparing and planning and thinking about every different scenario that possibly could happen. But it should take 8 weeks from July 29th. Hopefully, we pray we're going to have a calm hurricane season. Ideally, we would like to have it done before then, but, everything that has happened, this is beyond anyone's control. So this is where we find ourselves right now.
Yeah, the machinery they brought in is just unbelievable. It's been kind of like a tourist attraction. People are just going down there and seeing it. It's amazing. How about all the cars? Are they going to be able to get all those cars out of the water, or how's that going to work?
Yeah, they're going to work. Actually, what they're going to do is when they make the cuts, they're going to put down, and you've probably seen it if you've gone by the side of a mountain, you've seen these steel cables that keep rocks from falling, and they're actually going to put those steel cables in between the sections, and that's going to keep the cars in place when they make the cuts. And so as they pull the chain down, there'll be a steel cable that goes down with it, and that'll keep the cars in place. And then, as I said, they'll have 8 sections. They're going to take some of the sections on to Louisiana. They're going to take some of the other sections, and they've got property in Brunswick that they've secured with the Georgia Ports Authority, that they're going to put some of the other sections in there until they can take it out for salvage.
And if you join us, Buddy Carter on the phone with the 1st District Congressional candidate running for re-election. We had the sheriff candidates in Thursday and Monday. They're running for this runoff. Again, your race is not till November. But with the coronavirus, how tough is it to get out and campaign and see people? How are you doing that?
Well, we've been out and about. We've been all throughout the district. Of course, just because we're out doesn't mean that other people are out. Other people aren't. Obviously, there aren't very many people out, but it is difficult. It is difficult to get out there. I've learned how to use all the virtual platforms, as I'm sure everyone has. I'm familiar with Zoom and WebEx and everything else now. That's been an opportunity for us, and you just make the best of it. You try to get out and try to see as many people as you can, but at the same time, you use a lot of social media at this time as well.
You mentioned you were on Air Force One. I know Kelly Loeffler was on there. I know I watched the arrival. Representative Collins was already at the airport waiting for the president to come, but he praised both people. That's a curious race, or that's got the attention to the state of Georgia. Again, there's 21 candidates in the race, but those two seem to be the top two candidates. Seems to be a heated race between the two. Your thoughts on her, the job she's doing in Washington?
I think Kelly's doing a great job. I've been very impressed by the job she's been doing since she started. Look, I'm a Kelly Loeffler fan. I think she's done a great job. Having said that, I will tell you that Doug Collins and I have known each other for over 20 years. Doug Collins is a fine fellow. You will not meet a finer fellow than Doug Collins. I consider him a close friend, and I'm staying as neutral as I can possibly be. But it's good that we have two good choices. It's unfortunate that they're running against each other, but that's decisions that they had to make. The good news is that we have two fine choices, and I don't think we can go wrong with either one of them.
The question is, will the president stay neutral? Your thoughts on that?
I think he will.
He has, but he hasn't. As I said, I know he wanted Collins to get that position when it was first appointed by the governor, but the governor went with Kelly Loeffler. So the thing that I'm concerned about, it just seems like it's dividing the Republican Party in the state of Georgia. You see different people in the Republican Party picking sides. Commissioner Gary Black last week endorsed Collins. You got the governor, lieutenant governor, and most of his people supporting Loeffler. So are you afraid it could divide the party in the state?
Well, that is a concern, and it is one fine mess. I think that's the way to describe it.
It's a curious race for sure. You keep hearing rumblings, a couple months back that someone was going to get an appointment, someone was going to drop out. But right now, you watch TV and listen to the radio. I mean, the ads are just back and forth. She definitely has a huge war chest. She's got plenty of money for TV ads, so it's going to be interesting how it all shakes out. But most people that, the governor spoke highly of her. I mean, he's pleased with the job she's done. So it'll be interesting how that race shapes up if they both stay in that all the way to November. But that's a wild race. 21 candidates in the race. Nobody knows who the other 18 or 19 are. All we hear
that's
is
right. And of course, it's
Collins.
going to go to a runoff. We know that.
Right.
And it just depends on who's going to be in the runoff. And of course, you got you got a pretty strong
Collins and Loeffler.
Democratic candidate.
I'll go out on a limb right there. That's an easy limb to go out on. So if they both stay in the race, and those two will be in the runoff. So it'll be interesting. But like I said, I'm just curious if the president can stay neutral. I mean, he's working with Kelly. He sang her praises in Atlanta, but he also sang Collins' praises as well. So it'll be interesting to see if he can stay neutral between now and November.
Right. I agree with you.
It'll be fun to watch, that's for sure. Buddy, always good talking to you. Again, I guess what's your schedule? You going to be back in the district soon, or are you still in Washington, or what's taking you? I
am in Washington. I got here yesterday. We're in Monday through Friday this week, and then I'll be home for the weekend, and then we'll be back up here Monday through Friday. Now, we are scheduled to be out the month of August. Whether we get all our work done, and there's a lot to be done in this next 2 weeks, including the next coronavirus relief package that they want to get done. if we get all our work done in the next 2 weeks, we'll be out in August, but we may have to come back the first couple of weeks in August or the first week, which is fine with me.
Well, you're traveling, so I'm curious. We talk about the economy. How about the airports? Do you see a lot of people traveling, or are they not traveling?
It has picked up significantly. You got to wear a mask on the plane now. You got to raise your hand to go to the bathroom. It's different, I will tell you that. And there's no service. They'll give you a little plastic bag with water and Cheetos in it, but that's about it. It is different, but it is picking up. More and more people in the airports.
Well, that's good. Like I said, and baseball's coming back this week, so that's good news. NHL's starting up, MLS. All the sports teams are getting back. NBA's about to crank back up, so hopefully we'll see at least some entertainment on TV. Fans aren't allowed in the stands yet, but we've got some live action coming up, so they're hopeful for a football season as well. So the high school here in Georgia pushed everything back till after September, but they haven't canceled anything as of yet. So as you mentioned, schools are the big item that's on the agenda today. The school board meeting. Hopefully schools will start. I know the governor's pushing schools to reopen, but a lot of schools are already opting to go virtual. So your thoughts on that? The difference between being in school and doing it virtual.
I tell you, I'm ready for them to be back in school. I think that we can be careful enough, and that we can be prepared enough for the kids to get back in school. That is going to be the key to me. Can you imagine, Bob, if you thought back and you said, well, I missed the fourth grade because we didn't have school that year. I just can't imagine. This is such a big part of their lives. And, you have to look at it. Does the benefit outweigh the risk? And does the risk outweigh the benefit in this case?
Well, I think they just missed so much. We still talk about this past senior class, how much they missed. And luckily they had a live graduation ceremony this past Saturday, which went well. But, they missed out on some. You just missed the interaction. I think you learn more, in class with a teacher than you would sitting in front of a computer screen. That's just me. But like I said, I'm like you. Hopefully kids can get back in school and things can go well. And hopefully they're going to find a cure for this, or at least a vaccine. I keep hearing that they're optimistic about that maybe by the end of the year. Are you hearing that in Washington, D.C.?
Absolutely. And I mentioned earlier I've got a committee meeting. I'm not on the O&I committee, but they asked me to waive on as a pharmacist because we've got 4 pharmaceutical manufacturers coming today at the meeting's at 10 o'clock, and they're going to be updating us on their vaccination developments and where they're at, and it's very, very encouraging. So I'm looking forward to this meeting.
Okay, one final question. You got to be honest now. You're on Air Force One. Do you take a souvenir? I mean, you take it. What do you take?
You take everything that's not nailed down. That's what I took.
And what is that? Like napkins, candy? What else? What else? They have Air Force One candy, M&Ms, or what? I'm just curious what all's on Air Force One.
Oh yeah, they had peanut M&Ms, and I got 4 boxes from my grandbabies. And
there you go.
I got napkins. I started to unplug the phone and put it in my pocket.
I remember Barbara Walters talking about every time she went to the White House, she'd always take something as a souvenir. So I just wondered if you were able to get something to remember that bucket list trip. So it's as nice as they say, huh? I asked Kelly Loeffler about it when she was here. She said it's a nice ride for sure.
It was, and it was so good to be able to spend some quality time with the president. He is such a good guy. I'm not kidding. He's truly a businessman who happened to get elected president.
Okay, buddy. Well, again, we appreciate you, and hopefully we'll get you in the studio before now in November when the election takes place. Wish you the best of luck. Stay safe in Washington, D.C., that's for sure. I guess you're wearing a mask. What's the rules in Washington? Do you have to wear a mask everywhere you go?
You do, and we're still voting in groups. They'll call A through C, and you go down there and vote, and then you go back to your office, and then they'll call the next group. So the votes are really stretched out. When we go to all of our hearings are still virtual, but we go to the hearing room and with our laptops and just ask questions from there. But the hearings are actually virtual.
Okay. Somebody asked me to ask you this question. I hate to put you on the spot, but our goal is to get the president on the Butch and Bob Show before the election. Can you slip in our number and tell him when he gets a chance to give us a call? We'd love to hear from him.
I'll do it. I promise you.
Well, we've had the governor, had Lieutenant Governor, we have Carn. It'd be nice to have a president on there. So
absolutely.
Tell him we'd love to have him. If he just slip him our number, tell him it's a world famous Butch and Bob Show. We'd love to have President Trump on the Butch and Bob Show one day.
All right, we'll do it.
Okay, buddy. Always good talking to you. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, have a great day. Stay safe. Again, those comments at First District Congressman Buddy Carter on the world famous Butch and Bob Show.
Butch and Bob Show on WIFO, brought to you by Murphy Builder Supply, also brought to you by First Southern Bank and Damon's Famous Fingers and Wings. Good morning from the Big Dog WIFO at 8:33.
And then along came Walker Jones.
20%. 20% off MSRP on every 2019 and 2020 1500 DS Ram truck in Walker Jones' expansive inventory. That's 20% off on the truck that earned a 2019 IIHS Best Safety Pick, the 2020 U.S. News Best Truck Brand, and Consumer Guide Best Buy 12 years in a row. And there's more. Walker Jones is offering 0% financing on most Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram products. And of course, we'll take care of you like good friends and neighbors should.
Hey, this is Tommy Wagner. Come on down and see us at Walker Jones, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, home of the lifetime warranty. I said lifetime.
Walker Jones, Memorial Drive in Waycross, and online at WalkerJonesChryslerJeepDodge.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. N 73120.
Get the best deal from Walker Jones.
The briefings are back. I'm Chris Foster. Fox News. President Trump plans to speak at a White House coronavirus briefing at 5 p.m. Eastern, bringing back what was a daily event earlier in the outbreak. Negotiations are heating up over another round of coronavirus financial relief.
White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin will meet with Democrats and Republicans on Capitol Hill today as Republicans prepare to unveil a $1 trillion package. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell wants liability protections for schools and businesses, which Democrats oppose.
It will take a good faith bipartisan cooperation from our Democratic colleagues to actually make a law.
Fox News is told the GOP plan would give state and local governments $100 billion, the majority to help schools reopen safely. Rachel Sutherland, Fox News.
As President Trump talks about sending federal officers into more cities, a half dozen mayors ask Attorney General William Barr for the immediate removal of officers clashing with protesters in Portland, Oregon. In Congress,
House Democrats are now proposing a bill blocking what they call the paramilitary occupation in Portland. The proposed bill would require agency identification on officers' uniforms, prevent unmarked vehicles from being used during arrests, limit crowd control activities, and inform the public on federal officer deployments within 24 hours.
Fox's Jackie Ibanez. Georgia Democrats by committee choose their candidate to hold John Lewis's House seat. He died Friday.
Georgia State Senator Nikema Williams was a runaway choice to take Congressman Lewis' spot on the November ballot. Like Lewis, she is a civil rights activist who ventured into politics, learning about policy with Lewis as her example. Williams will face Republican and reality TV personality Angela Stanton King for the seat November 3rd.
Fox's Gernal Scott. Joe Biden plans a speech today about his caregiver economy plan, more money for early child care and home health care workers for older Americans. America's listening to Fox News.
It's the perfect time for a powerful business refresh during Dell Technologies Cyber Savings Event. It starts now with up to 50% off high-performance Windows 10 business laptops, desktops, and servers, plus top-brand electronics. It's also your chance to streamline IT and simplify PC life cycles with PC as a service. Dell Technologies recommends Windows 10 Pro for business. Call 877-ASK-DELL for a Dell Technologies advisor who can help you find the right tech. That's 877-ASK-DELL or visit Dell.com/smallbusinessdeals.
Everyone is talking about David Horowitz's new book, Blitz. It's a #1 Amazon bestseller and just hit the New York Times bestseller list. Blitz reveals the truth about Trump. Don Jr. and Mike Huckabee say you need to get Blitz. And follow David Horowitz every night on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable TV channel. Get the new bestseller Blitz at bookstores or get the free offer and save $28. Call 800-NEWSMAX or go to blitz411.com. That's blitz411.com.
After days of talks, European Union leaders have worked out a